not every day that you get to sit down with the person whose name is on the cover of the book. So naturally, it's a great honor for me to be here with Nish Amarnath to talk about her new book, Victims for Sale. So Nish, what is it that inspired you to write on the central themes that are in this book?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Tanya. I'm very, very happy to be here. And in terms of what inspired this book, I would say that it grew out of my experiences as a journalist. And so, whenever Sachin Tendulkar was in town, or if A.R. Rahman was, happened to be in Chennai, then I would be like the first port of call to go and interview them. And, beyond a point, I hoped to address critical social, economic and political issues. And while I was doing that, I came across an incident that was rather flabbergasting, as I found out after speaking to various different sources, including families and the community and multiple stakeholders.
Now, talking about the characters in the book, you mentioned that two of the characters, many of the characters were influenced by many people you know in different parts, but two specifically stand out, that is namely Nimi and Richie. In your acknowledgements, I think you mentioned that Richie was based on a character you knew, and I think in my discussions with you, you mentioned that Nimi was also loosely based on someone you met in real life. So could you let me know a little bit more about that and how you draw the line between reality and fiction when it comes to writing about people you know?
Well, each of my characters has components of various different people who have piqued my interest as well as my own imagination. And Richie, as I've mentioned in my acknowledgements, is loosely inspired from a friend at LSE, and in fact we've been very good friends for a good long while. But Richie has this punk bad boy facade, and beneath that facade lies a little boy who is looking for a place to belong and who appreciates small low pleasures. And Nimi is based off also a figment of my imagination and an amalgam of different people I've met, but is inspired from one of my sources who kind of became a friend back in the 2000s, in mid-2006 and so on.
I definitely want to ask you this because I think you and I were talking and you were telling me about the research that went into the book, and one of the things you mentioned was that you sat in on a murder trial, and ever since I've wanted to know the full process that you went through to write this book.
Well, so in terms of the research, I was in San Diego at the time and just getting ready to move to New York and attend Columbia University. So that gave me the leeway to go back to London, get on the field, as in get my hands dirty, and speak to people, various people, right from people in law enforcement, people from the media, BBC producers, doctors, barristers, and so on. And I believe in knowing more than we write. So I pretty much grilled them. I even met and spoke to someone working in films, to lend more credence to Richie's character. That was actually my friend, Mike. And other people that I had spoken to included Scotland Yard, former Scotland Yard officers, and an ex-Metropolitan Police Service officer. In fact, is now had become a television script consultant, and she is a muse for the character DCI Jane Tennyson in the British drama series called Prime Suspect. And then I sat in on this murder trial at the Old Bailey, or the Central Criminal Court of England and Wales, which I never ever expected or imagined would be part of the research. So the court, in other words, granted me approval on extremely short notice, and this was a suggestion from the sources of one of the people that I spoke to. And so they had less than half a day. I got an approval from them in less than half a day. The security was tight, and being part of the trial itself was uncanny, but also starkly real and boring.
I'm sure everybody's going to read the book now because we've heard so much from you and gained so much valuable insight. So go read the book. Thank you again for being here. It was lovely talking to you.